Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hey, hey, yeah, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hey, oh, oh, yeah, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hey, hey. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Gauranga, hey Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Nitai Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Ram, Ram 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 Hare. Nitya Gaur. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Shri Radhe. Shri Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, 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 Radhe. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Go to Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oh, too much AC. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 16, Praise of King Prithu by the Professional Reciters. Text number 6. Vasukala Upadate Kale Chayam Vimunchate Samasarvesu Bhuteshu Pratapam Suryavad Vibhu Vasukala Upadate Kale Chayam Vimunchati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Pratapam Suryavad Vibhu Vastukala Upadate Kali Jayam Vimunchati Sama Sarvesu Bhuteshu Pratapam Suryavad Vibhu. Ladies. Translation line by line, back and forth?
Yes, line by line.
I speak and then someone translate, like line by line?
Translate.
Oh, okay. Okay. Vasu. Riches. You have to repeat. Vasu. Do, um, should we do the Bengali translation?
Why don't you continue? Those who need translation, he is doing
Oh,
translation.
neither. Oh, he's doing it separate. Okay. Riches. Kale. In due course of time. Upadate. Exacts. Kale. In due course of time. Cha. Also. Ayam. This King Prithu. Vimunchati. Returns. Sama. Equal. Sarvesu. To all. Bhutesu. Living entities. Pratapan. Shining. Suryavat. Like the sun god. Vibhu. Powerful. Translation. So describing the glories of King Prithu. This King Prithu will be as powerful as the sun god, and just as the sun god equally distributes his sunshine to everyone, King Prithu will distribute his mercy equally. Similarly, just as the sun god evaporates water for 8 months, and during the rainy season returns it profusely, the king will also exact taxes from the citizens and return these monies in times of need. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The process of tax exaction is very nicely explained in this verse. Tax exaction is not meant for the sense gratification of the so-called administrative heads. Tax revenue should be distributed to the citizens in times of need, during emergencies such as famine or flood. Tax revenues should never be distributed amongst government servants in the form of high salaries and various other allowances. In Kali Yuga, however, the position of the citizens is very horrible because taxes are exacted in so many forms and are spent for the personal comforts of the administrators. The example of the sun in this verse is very appropriate. The sun is many millions of miles away from the earth, and although the sun does not exactly touch the earth, it manages to distribute land all over the planet by exacting water from the ocean and seas, and also manages to make the land fertile by distributing water during the rainy season. As an ideal king, King Prithu would execute all his business in the village and state as expertly done as the sun. Om Gyan Timidandasya Gyana Jana Salakaya Chaksun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya De Sutarine Pancha Kalpa Tarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Vaja Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare. So here King Prithu is you might say, the perfect king. Why? Because the perfect king represents the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a representative to rule on behalf of the Supreme Lord. So these kings that take up this position are called Rajarsis or Rajarishis. They are Raj, They are kshatriyas, they are administrators, they are powerful kings, but at the same time, they're guided by spiritual and religious principles. And therefore, here it's glorifying King Prithu. Even before he is actually performing the activities, this is interesting. You'll see something similar in the first canto with Maharaj Parikshit. He was also glorified because they could read the horoscope of the king and they could understand what of his qualities and what those qualities would manifest in the form of his rule. And so in that way they could understand that their future was good. They were ruled by a person who was actually a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and not some elected administrator by the people in general who have no idea how to elect administrators and do it simply by some type of popular vote, which has really no substance to it because nobody knows what this person is going to do when they get in power. And then they're always sorry later on that they had put this person in power. Of course, maybe it's from country to country it's like that, but in Western countries, they're always putting people in and tearing them down, one after another. Nobody lasts any longer because they can't represent anybody. They only represent a small interest. Just like in the UK, the United Kingdom, there was one person. She became the prime minister. She lasted for 45 days. Can you imagine that? She was elected to a post, which is something like 2 or 3 years. I don't know, 3 years or more. But after 45 days, they kicked her out. So this is one of many types of examples that go on in Kali Yuga. But here we have the ideal king. And what does he do? He has the welfare of the citizens at heart. He's not there simply to have a nice position so he can gain some power, some wealth, some fame. He's there to serve. So this is a very important principle in the general sense. Whatever position one has within any particular social, political, or even spiritual arrangement, it's always based on the idea of service. Service is the mood. How to serve those that they lead. So the Bhakti Tirtha Swami, he penned these books called Servant Leadership. How from the position of leadership we become a servant, but not so much becoming simply trying to extract some personal benefit from our position. Or even the idea of, I like to rule, so I get the position to rule, so I can be in charge and feel good about ruling everybody else. Kind of a control mentality. But this idea of leadership is the idea of servant of those they lead. And this is the ideal principle. And how to serve, here we have King Parikshit. He's actually Shaktavesh avatar. He's come to teach. It's interesting. He's come to teach the principles of deity worship. He'll be so expert not only in his rule, but he'll also teach the whole process of how to worship the deity according to Pancharatrika Vidi. In other words, according to the ideal principles as stated in the Pancharatrika Vidi. And that will establish the principles as an example for those who follow. So he's actually an empowered personality. And here it says that he will be like the sun. The sun extracts water from the ocean, from the sea, and it turns it into a cloud. And then when it's time, the cloud will give back that water back to the land, even onto the sea where it's not even needed. So in the same way, he'll take taxes from the citizens, but use it for the citizens in times of emergency, in times of need. That is a perfect, ideal leader. I don't really know the situation in India about leadership here, because I don't really study it so much. But I know in Western countries, nobody really likes their leaders. And Prabhupada used to say, the leaders are coming from the populace, the people in general. So the people in general don't have any intelligence on what is a leader and how to elect a leader. And so whoever comes up, whoever can speak the loudest and make the most promises becomes the leader. And if he has some, what do we call Shakti, he can attract people's mind by his fancy words, so he gets some power and position. But then all the promises he makes, he forgets when he's in there. And then he says, well, what I said before, it doesn't apply now. We have another program. So this is today's leadership in the world. And they're always fighting. If they're not fighting with actual guns and missiles, they're fighting with what is called Cold War, various types of terrorist blocks and sanctions upon each other. Just like now, what happened was the United States said that anything coming from India now has to have 50% tax on it. So they want to punish India for being so successful. Because the United States is afraid that India will become too powerful and take over the lead of the world. And it's going to happen anyway. But anyway, they can't stop it. Because Indians are in every country of the world now. So it's not only Indians in India, it's Indians everywhere. So that's a whole nother discussion. But what's happening is that it's all about power, position, control, and satisfying the interests of a small group of people who have power and position. And the rest of the people have to suffer and pay taxes. Just like, I'll give you an example. These are just things that I hear about. In the UK, if you go to work and then you get your paycheck, they take 45% of your gross pay for taxes. 45%. Yeah, so that means if you make, say you make say you make 2,000 pounds a week, you get a little bit over 1,000 pounds. That's all you get. And if you make over 100,000 pounds a year, it's 50%. And there's tax for this, tax for that, tax for that. I remember I was traveling in one country in Europe, so I went to check in my luggage, and the lady said, you are overweight, so you have to pay a little extra. So I said, well, how much? She said, that's 29 euros more. So I said, fine. She said, you can't pay here, you have to go to that window over there. So she pointed me. So I said, okay. So I went up to the window, gave the slip with 29 euros. And the lady said, that'll be 34 euros. I said, it's only 29. She said, yes, but we charge 5 euros for processing. I said, I don't really want your processing. I told her that. So they put tax on everything, tax for this, tax for that. If you look the wrong way at the wrong time, you get taxed. Tax on everything. But a leader takes taxes and uses it for the benefit of those that the money came from. Therefore, the leaders, they're not avaricious, trying to. And King Prithu, he has all good qualities, and you'll read about his rule as these chapters started to manifest. And so nowadays, it's really hard. And Bhagavatam explains that in the age of Kali, as it progresses continuously, people will be taxed so much that they'll leave their hearth and home and go to the forest and live. People will be taxed for everything. It's coming. To this tax, that tax, this tax, this tax. They say we need money in order to manage the state, but it never goes back to the people. It goes, as Prabhupada says here. Now, Prabhupada spoke this more than 50 years ago. So what's the situation now? He says that it's distributed amongst the government servants for high salaries, that's all. But that's not a leader, that's a misleader. Yeah. So, studying the life of King Prithu, we understand what is the ideal leader. He's thinking in terms of the benefit of the welfare of the citizen. Prabhupada also said that the leaders should make sure that everyone in the country that they're leading is following some religious system. Atheism is not allowed. Really. That's according to Vedic culture. So when a leader gets in, he doesn't tell you which religion you have to follow or which process, but everyone has to follow some spiritual or religious process. No one cannot be connected with anything else but some form of religion. Because religion, or we might say spirituality, is the essence of the living entity's existence. And the leader has to think for the welfare of the people. So therefore, they make it a policy, you have to follow God in one form or another according to the bona fide traditions that are available. That's interesting, right? Nowadays we have agnostics and we have atheists and somewhere people, I don't know what else. But these things are not allowed. And therefore, if people were atheists, they were given a special section of the kingdom where they have to live free and not associate with anybody else. Yeah? They were allowed to live, but not amongst the common populace. That's how Vedic culture was set up. Because atheism is just, what is it? It's ignorance, that's all. It's actually envy, but it's also manifested in a form of ignorance. So a leader is one who leads by example, teaches by example. And not that, just like you have, a leader usually takes advice from their ministers, from their, well, you might say, their personal associates who they keep with them to get advice on different policies, ideas. So you had the example of a leader. There's three kinds of leaders. One, he'll ask for advice and he'll take it. That's the ideal leader. The second, other kind of leader is ask for advice, and if he likes the advice, he takes it. And if he doesn't like it, he doesn't take it. And the third leader doesn't ask for advice. So these are three kinds. Ravana was the second one. He always asked for advice, but if he didn't like it, he didn't take it. And then there were some leaders that never asked for advice because they think, why ask for advice? I'm the leader, I know what to do. Like that. So Ram, he was the ideal leader also. He would ask advice from his ministers, Vasishta and others, and he would, even if he felt that their advice was not the best, he would discuss it with them, and then they would come to some kind of conclusion, and then he would accept that conclusion. That's the ideal leaders. Nowadays, no one even can speak to the leaders nowadays. They have their own private life, and if you want to speak to them, you have to write a letter which never gets to them anyway. goes through their secretaries or ministers or whatever else they have set up, and they never read the letters. Or if they do read them, they don't, you know. In other words, they give it to someone else to handle it. So this is today's leadership. It's quite, and that's why people are suffering. Prabhupada said, people in general are good, but they're led by bad leaders. Leaders who don't have qualities for leadership, or maybe even are, what we say, leading, and so they can become popular as a leader, that's all. They take the position because of some false ego to be in control, that's all. So people are suffering. Prabhupada used to say, he said, we have no fear of Maya. He said, Maya is our friend. Maya is our friend. But he said, but because there are demons in the world, and Maya has to serve the demons, therefore there are so many problems in the world. He said the problems are not Maya, but the problems are the demons who worship the external energy as their deity, and therefore she serves them according to their, what we say, lusty and greedy desires. So if you wonder why things are going wrong in the world, it's because of the demons. That's all. Generally, people are good. And generally, Maya is always helping the devotee become more Krishna conscious by putting difficulties in the life of a devotee to bring that devotee to a higher state of surrender in order for them to become more and more connected with the absolute truth. So Maya is always, you should never see Maya as an enemy. She's actually the maidservant of Krishna. But she has what we say, a very difficult service. She has to keep people away from Krishna. So Prabhupada said, Maya is behind Krishna. And if you keep Krishna in front, Maya is behind. But if you don't keep Krishna in front, you look left, right, up, down, sideways, Maya is there. All of the different corners. Keeping Krishna in the forefront means remembering Krishna, chanting Krishna's name, and keeping your mind and senses engaged in some activity of devotional service. And you can never be touched by the material energy. And Maya says, oh, this devotee is really nice. Let me help them even more. So Maya becomes the friend and is actually the assistant of the sincere devotee. But those who are not sincere, who are taking devotional service simply to gain some material profit from devotional service, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, people come to Krishna consciousness for material gain also. And therefore, Maya may also give you your material gain, but you won't get Krishna. That's the problem. And what can compare to Krishna? There's no gain in this material world. Even the greatest material situation cannot even come close to the happiness that one can experience, even by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. There's no comparison. So Maya is our friend if we keep Krishna in the forefront. That means keeping Krishna in the forefront means staying engaged nicely in devotional service. Okay, so we're hearing about the glories of King Prithu. This is a very interesting section of the Bhagavatam. It'll go on for many chapters. And you'll see how when King Prithu came into power, the previous king was King Vena. King Vena was not really a king. He just happened to be the son of King Agnidra. And King Agnidra became so disgusted that he left everything, and his son was the only heir to the throne, so he took power. But he ruled almost like today's rulers today, even worse. He's tried to stop all sacrifices. He didn't allow for any types of charity. The only charity you could give was to him. That was King Vena. And then so the Brahmins were still powerful due to the previous rule. So they tried to change King Vena, and they said, well, you're not following religious principles. He said, I am God. Why should I have to worry about religious principles? Yeah, he was saying that he's the supreme. Or even if he didn't think he was the supreme, he thinks because I'm the king, that's as good as being the supreme. So the Brahmins, they chanted mantras powerfully, really powerful mantras, and they killed him by mantra. Mantra is very powerful. Sometimes people who are what they say, Shaktas, or what we say, what do they call them? Tantrics. They can chant mantras very powerfully, and if they have some reason, they can direct those mantras at you, and you'll have a lot of trouble. And if you're not strong, they can also kill you by mantras also. But if you chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, they can't do anything, because that mantra is the Maha Mantra. Always remember the holy name, that you'll always be in a position of being successful in everything you do in life, both spiritually and materially. And so, yeah, there's people who are like that. And so mantra is very powerful. So they killed Vena, and then they churned his body, and out came the first. It's almost like when you want to bring out some nectar, first you have to get rid of the poison. So the poison came out in the form of this personality called Bahuka. And he was a very sinful personality. And he was sent to a particular part of the world to live. And then, of course, after came out King Prithu. And then he actually, his father was King Vena. But it's amazing, but he was the complete opposite. Not only was he an ideal king, but he set the example on how to rule throughout the world. And so his rule was actually glorious. So nowadays, it says that the devotees are praying, where are the Yudhistirs, where are the Maharaj Parikshits, where are the King Prithus, where are the a lot of kings, King Bharat, so many great kings from Vedic culture. But nowadays, we don't have that. Fortunately, in India, you have a good ruler here. He's good. He's a Rajarsi. He rules by religious principles. Of course, he has his vested interests with other people that he has to patronize. But still, compared to the rest of the world, India is pretty good. The rest of the world is a mess. The leaders are just no better than demons. And they're actually like that. And so, for a devotee, we're not so much affected by what goes on in the secular world because we focus on devotional service. We have to interact with the external world somehow. But if we stay connected to Krishna in devotional service, we can somehow tolerate and get by all of the hassles it is just to live in this material world. To live in this material world is a great burden. To have a material body is something that is constantly giving you trouble in one form or another. And if your body's not giving you your trouble, somebody else is giving trouble to your body. So it's just the way it is in this. So stay close to the holy name. This is your only shelter, really. And stay close, to stay in association with devotees, and find ways to keep yourself absorbed in activities that are devotional. In other words, engage in devotional service. Whether you live in the temple or outside, it doesn't matter. You can engage in devotional service. Okay, so we'll stop here. We started a little late, so I don't want to take up too much time. Any questions or comments from the... Yes, let the local devotees go first. Mike is behind you. Okay. Is there a hand up anywhere? No? No questions.
Maharaj Ji, Danvat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj Ji, you mentioned that that nowadays the politicians or the leaders are, whatever taxes they are extracting from us, so they are not using in back to the service of the people of the state.
They keep taxing you, that's all they do.
They keep taxing, yeah.
They
And
build you a road once in a while,
yeah.
and that's it. Just like you go to Western countries, maybe here too. You drive along the highway and you have to pay tolls.
Yeah.
They take travel tax, this tax, that tax. Taxes are everywhere, and this is going to continue. It's going to proliferate more and more as Kali Yuga goes on. Everything is taxed.
So my question is, say if we are paying the tax, and the leaders are utilizing that tax, that money which is extracted from the tax in irreligious activities.
Yeah, they're going to have to suffer.
So then that effect comes to each one of us who are contributing to that taxation.
Well, you're being cheated, that's all. You're being cheated. You have faith that if you give this money, it'll come back when it's needed. But it doesn't, so you're actually getting cheated.
So,
But those who are cheating, they have to suffer for that. When you cheat somebody, if you're an ordinary person and you cheat, you suffer. But if you're in a position of leadership and you cheat, you suffer more.
so,
The suffering becomes greater.
so as you mentioned, the leaders get the bad effect of cheating the others, but the people who are getting cheated, do they also get the bad effect?
Well, Prabhupada said because they elected these leaders, they have to suffer also. The bad leaders come from the same populace as the people that that elect them.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Mataji over there, yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare
Thank you for
Krishna.
the class, Maharaj. Maharaj, my question is that what is that one principle of leadership? Being a parent itself is a leadership role.
What
So
is that one principle that by
that
being
being a parent, one can practice to keep a balance between control and comfort for the children. Because when as a parent you try to keep control these days, it starts affecting the relationship. So how can bring one that balance of comfort and control?
Well, control also means to guide them in the right way. So if you guide them towards Krishna and teach them, we were speaking about this yesterday, how education starts before birth. Garbhadan samskara, to bring in a good soul into the womb, and then give that soul whatever it needs to live, basic things, but at the same time, spiritual education, spiritual association. There was one story in the Greek tradition where one teacher, his name was Diogenes, he was famous as a teacher. So one lady, she came to Diogenes, she said, "My dear Diogenes, I have a son. Would you take him into your school?" He said to the lady, "How old is the boy?" She said, "He's 5. He said, "Bring him immediately. We're 5 years too late already." So if you wait too long to start educating them, they pick up so many wrong ideas and bad habits already. Start from the very beginning. So you might say, "Well, I didn't do that, so what do I do now?" So, okay. So be an example for what you want them to be also. In other words, teach them material activities based on principles, religious principles, morality, values, aesthetics, things that are in line with the good qualities of the human being. And teach them to become good, teach them good qualities, to be kind, to be generous, to be concerned about others. And they'll pick it up if you teach them and also show by example also. Because generally, and mostly also, children learn from their parents more than they learn from anyone. When they go to school, then if they have good training before they get into school, they're not so much affected by the negativity that comes with certain association like that. But of course, Prabhupada wanted gurukuls for our kids also. So the parents, especially the ladies, would teach the children in groups like that. I don't know what the rule is in India. Can you homeschool your children here? You can homeschool them. You can also set up a spiritual community where you have a school. It's a good idea, right? Start a school. Yeah, have a school for kids. You have a school, right? Something is happening now? No? Saturday, Sunday school. And then they have to go to regular school during the week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Well, yeah, this is what, Prabhupada wanted temples to have schools for kids also, not just one gurukul somewhere where everybody has to send their kids away from home. The gurukul can be in the same area where they live.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, while speaking about the qualities of a leader, you also mentioned that a leader should make sure that everyone in the country is following some sort of religion. Like you said, atheism is not allowed. How do we apply it practically in today's world, especially when we look at our family, it is not possible. Also the people who we are preaching or connected to, it becomes difficult.
No, the leaders are not doing that because some of the leaders are atheists anyway. So they're not. Prabhupada was just talking about what it means, what are the duties of an ideal leader, is to make sure people are following some religious process. You don't dictate which one, you tell them they can follow any religious tradition as long as it's a bona fide religious tradition. But nowadays, the leaders don't follow themselves either, many of them. At least in Western countries, they don't. So you can't really enforce that because it's not being done from the top. Now, what problem? I'm just talking about what is ideal leadership. To try to enforce that today, it'll cause a revolution. People will not accept that. They say, we have a right to believe whatever we want to believe. So we call it democracy or something similar. Prabhupada called democracy, called it demon crazy. Democracy, demon crazy. Democracy doesn't work. Ideal rule is monarchy, where there is an ideal king. But now if you try to institute monarchy, you might get a demon for a monarch. So that's another problem. Because people don't know how to choose leaders. And leaders, they have to lead by according to Manu Samhita. They have to follow the rules of Manu Samhita, which dictates how one should lead a country. All of that's there in the Vedas, the Manu Samhita. So everything now is upside down. You try to institute that, you'll just have chaos. It's like Prabhupada said, when he came, he said, we want to establish Varnashram Dharma, but society is so upside down, we can't do it. So for so many years, Prabhupada completely rejected the idea of Varnashram. But then, in 1974, he changed and said, we can establish Varnashram within the Krishna conscious society, Daivi Varnashram. But he said you can't do it in the secular world. It's just too upside down. Where do you start, you know? It starts with education and training and evaluation based on the training and education. But who's undergoing that? People are going to school to learn a particular trade or particular science so they can go get out and get a job accordingly. So education is geared to economic, development and not to personal qualities. If you want to get real education, you have to get it in ISKCON. That's personal education. What are the qualities? How to live? How to do things in general. But in the secular world, people do whatever they want, whenever they want. It's called freedom. Freedom to make a mess. And that's what you have nowadays. And they try to correct all of the problems with another problem. They make another law to stop one problem, and that law becomes another problem. Prahlad Maharaj even said it. He said material solutions to material problems are more problematic than the problems. You create another problem. Spiritual solutions to material problems are the actual solutions. So the Krishna conscious movement is meant to create an entire society with all of the activities that the society has, but based on spiritual principles, based on connection with the Lord. That's the idea. That is what this ISKCON movement is about. Teaching people how to live. And not simply how to get by day to day. That's different. Anything else? Any other questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, my question is on chanting. So we have generally heard and known like Harinam is Chintamani. While chanting, whatever desires comes in our mind, it will eventually get fulfilled. But generally we see like while chanting, in our mind generally wrong desires come, and our anarthas come out. And it's true that those anarthas will come eventually fulfilled through the power of Harinam. So how to come out of this cycle?
So how to stop these wrong thoughts from coming into the mind?
Yes, correct, Maharaj.
Yeah, just as soon as they come in, shut them off. As soon as you leave them in, they grow. No matter if they're favorable or unfavorable, they'll grow. Thoughts are like seeds, and if you water the seed, it'll grow according to the quality of that seed. So if you're chanting and you find your mind going on to these other thoughts, Krishna says, whenever and wherever the mind wanders due to its unsteady and flickering nature, bring it back under the control of the self. So again, bring it back to the sound of the holy name. Don't let it wander. Because it can go anywhere, and pretty soon sometimes you'll be thinking of things that are actually against Krishna consciousness. You allow your mind to go. So, therefore it says a sadhu watches his mind. He doesn't trust. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati used to say, your mind is a non-devotee. So don't trust your mind. If you trust your mind, you might find yourself in trouble. Trust those principles that govern the mind based on coming from Guru, Shadow, and Shastra. The mind should be filled with thoughts that are related to Krishna consciousness, even in the practical sense also. But if they're not, then they have no value. They can just take your consciousness away from Krishna, that's all. So, when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement in New York in 1970, this was in 1973, beginning of 73. My Bhakta leader, I was under the Bhakta program, he would say to me, kill that thought or else it'll kill you. And he didn't just say it, he used to yell it at me. So I got the message. So don't allow these thoughts to come into the mind, even if you like them. If they're not connected with something beneficial or something Krishna conscious, then push them out. And when you chant japa, you're purifying your consciousness. So in the purification, the negativity will also come to the surface. The example is given. It's a good example. When you're making ghee, you put the butter on a fire, slow flame. Well, what comes out is the impurities that come to the top. In order to get the pure ghee, you have to skim off the impurities, and then you have the clear liquid, ghee. So these impurities will come out even when you're chanting Hare Krishna. But just don't give them any thought. Just push them out. Recognize them and then push them out. That's all. If you don't do that, then you're in another world, and they'll just take you from one place to another. You're sitting in a temple and you're chanting japa, and you see somebody, and that person reminds you of something, and then by reminding yourself of that person, then you think of that person, and then you think about how you used to speak to that person, and what you did with that person, and where you went with that person, and then you start thinking, and then 10 minutes later you think, oh my God, I'm still chanting, but I haven't heard anything yet. The mind just goes, one thought leads to another thought, another thought, another thought. So when it comes away from the sound vibration of Krishna's name, bring it back. But you have to practice that. It doesn't come easy. Chanchala himana Krishna pramati baulavadridha tasyaham nivamang manye vayoridas duskaram This is a verse spoken by Arjun telling Krishna, you're asking me to control the mind, but I think you're asking me to control the wind. He said it's impossible. The mind is obstinate, steady, very strong. Krishna agrees with Arjun, but then he says, Abhyasena tu kuntaya, vairagya chagriyate. He says, practice, 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 and stop engaging in sense gratification. Vairagya, and stop your practice of sense gratification and practice controlling the mind by focusing the mind on spiritual activities. I mean, you got to use your mind for something, right? So why not think of Krishna? It's logical, right? You have to think of something. So think of Krishna. Think of the beautiful form of Shri Radha Damodar. We come to the temple in the morning, we see the beautiful form of the deity. We take a mental picture of the deity, and then we carry that picture with us when we leave. And every time we can remember, oh, this was the beautiful darshan I saw this morning with Radha Damodar. And then it's Krishna conscious. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I'm thinking of
There's
us.
some noise outside, so it's hard to hear.
Should I come closer? Maharaj, my question is related to the.
Bring it down a little.
My question is related to the pastime of today, where it mentioned that Prithu Maharaj would exact taxes. The analogy was given, and then it is distributed for the welfare of the citizens. So keeping that as an analogy, my question is that when we are a part of a spiritual organization and we are giving our services, our time, energy, skills for our purification and for making an attempt to be engaged in service. And there are times when we may be having some issues, some disturbances. So is it a fair expectation to go to the leadership to give us some pacification or solace? And but at the same time, the leadership is busy in doing many projects, and they are also pressed with a lot of results that they need to show. My question is that how important is the aspect of devotee care with respect to the visible projects?
Yes, it's the most important question. Of course, when we began the ISKCON Society, devotee care was, devotees would care for each other in the best way they could, and the leadership would do. Now we realize that so many things didn't get taken care of because of a lack of a system. So they set up the devotee care system. So there are persons who work along with the leadership of whatever temple or yatra they're connected with to take care of all of the needs of the devotees when they arise and to make sure they have everything they need in order to practice devotional service, both from the material perspective and from the spiritual perspective also. So when you don't have a devotee care system, then you usually go to some leadership here to get some resolve with either some problem or some question or something. It's the duty, Prabhupada said, it's the duty of the leaders to be very affectionate to to the followers, and it's the duty of the followers to be very obedient to the leaders. So the leaders should see those that they're leading as their own children. And they would take care of them in the same way as if they were family members, which we are in a spiritual sense. Actually, that's the real family. So if you have a system, then everything works within the system. And you have people you can always go to, and then you can always present your situation to them. When you don't have a system, then you look for someone or some situation, some leader to work out your problem. But you shouldn't think, well, the leaders are too busy, therefore let me try to solve my own problem. No. Like I have one disciple, she keeps her phone on 24 hours a day. I can call her in the middle of the night if I need something, and she'll answer it, and immediately she'll do it, or she'll arrange for it to get done. And so it's like that when you need something, there should be always somebody available. And that's part of the organization of the yatra, of the temple. Should be there. I can't say anything beyond that because I don't know exactly how things go on here, but that's necessary. Now, they're not just devotee care ministry in the GBC, but devotee care principles that are in each and every yatra. Yeah. It's important because the devotees are the basis of the whole society. And if devotees are happy and getting everything you need, then the whole yatra will flourish. When devotees are happy, they'll surrender, they'll do more, they'll even come forward and volunteer to do things and even come up with ideas on how to increase the services. But when they're struggling on a personal level, then you won't see that. Then it becomes difficult to get things done. So yeah, there should be some kind of, ministry or some kind of group that takes care of devotees. You have one group inside the temple, and you have one group for the people outside the temple also. In other words, for the grihastas, there would be one care group, and for the people in the temple, the brahmacharis, there'll be another care group within the, yeah. That's being done in some places, but it's not across the board yet. But if you have a problem, just nowadays people go to the sannyasis when there's nobody else available. But the sannyasis don't know all of the situations, so they have to start from scratch a lot of time to find out what's going on before they can even, offer some suggestions or some solutions. But still, go to the sannyasis anyway. Because the sannyasis wear this T-shirt with a big S on it. It says, sold out, servant, slave. That's the T-shirt with the big S on it. So the sannyasis are there. They're meant to also guide people not only spiritually, but also according to the struggles they're undergoing in their practice of devotional service. Everyone should have someone they can go to. And if you can't find anybody, if you don't have one, try to find somebody. Because devotees like to help anyway. But the ideal thing is to have a system. When you have a system, then everything works nicely.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, he's in charge of devotee care. He is.
So Maharaj, my question is, Maharaj, because Maharaj, this is age and time of social media and also, so there are multiple very beautiful orators who are there on YouTube who recites beautiful kathas and everything. So Maharaj, what happens? We start hearing all these lectures and we develop some kind of, and then Maharaj, they say something like you can chant Radhe Radhe also. Sometimes they question that if you are a pure devotee of Lord Krishna, then why we are chanting Lord Narsimha prayers? And many a times it happens, Maharaj, that they are under a authority, they represent ISKCON also. So Maharaj, many people, they develop certain kinds of doubts. So how to address these things? Because Maharaj, you very beautifully mentioned that we should have someone to reach to. So Maharaj, what happens? We have so many people where we are taking so much of inputs, but we don't have one person whom we try to follow as it is. So how to take this in this age and time, Maharaj?
Well, we have answers for all of their so-called ideas that they want to bring in from outside. Everything's there in Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada's lectures, and the devotees who are in the leadership position are following Srila Prabhupada. So when people bring up these things, we show, well, this is not the way our society runs. And we also say that if you really want to make progress in spiritual life, you have to follow one tradition. You shouldn't be going shopping all around. This is like, we call it wanderlust. Going here and there, just looking for new information. Everything is there in Prabhupada's books. Bhakti Charu Maharaj gave many seminars just showing we don't need to go anywhere else. It's all there in Prabhupada's books. Well, people will say anything. People will say anything according to their own ideas. But we have our answers for everything. So if they come to us, we should be able to give them the answers.
Maharaj, sometimes what happens, because we are not also very mature, Maharaj, as you mentioned that we are also young. So we see that we have never told you to do this and you have done this and now you are in a problem. Now you want that please guide and solve this problem. So how to act in such situation? Because we see that it's going wrong and we see that after a certain period it went wrong. And now it's very difficult to retract that issue or situation. But devotees that time they want that please guide me to solve this problem. But we are not involved at all in that particular situation. I have not told you to speak to someone. I have not told you to hear that lecture. And now you have heard it. Now you have spoken like that. Now you are in a problem. Now you want me to solve this problem. So how to act in such situation? So they want that Vaishnavas are compassion. So out of compassion, you still guide. But we sometimes even see that even if you will take them out from that situation, again you will go independent things.
Yeah, in Vienna, there's a music school that teaches music. And they don't take anyone into the school who has any prior musical training. Because you have to unlearn before they can start teaching what they want them to learn. So when people learn from the outside and then they come bringing all of this stuff in, it's difficult because they've already got impressions about what they hear. But that's why we give classes. So we speak about what Prabhupada said, what's in Prabhupada's books, how this is the ideal principles. So we say, you know, chastity is one of the principles of bhakti, being chaste to one's spiritual master and not running around looking for spiritual masters to get ideas and then throwing it all together and thinking you have something. So speak about the importance of chastity. Just like if a man is married and he has a wife, If he stays with one wife, he's considered to be chaste. But if he runs around looking for other ladies, he's considered to be a low-class dog. So stay chaste to Srila Prabhupada's teachings. We're teaching in a certain way. When Prabhupada was asked, when you leave, who should we go to for spiritual principles? Prabhupada became very disturbed. He says if they'd say one thing different, your whole faith will be destroyed. So yeah, we should be listening to these people on the outside. They have their ways of doing it, and they also have their ways of finding fault with others. So I think from the ideal principle, we should teach subject matters based on what Prabhupada has given us. Classes on the Bhagavad Gita, on the Srimad Bhagavatam, on Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instructions, everything coming from Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada gave everything. You don't need anything else. And if you don't believe it, just keep hearing from Prabhupada. You'll find all of the questions all of the answers to any of your questions you can find in Prabhupada's books. Anything. If you know where to look. Even his lectures are there also. So yeah. So we talk about chastity, staying faithful to one tradition.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for enlightening us. In relation to this, I heard that we should make two types of devotees. One who is following the system we are in, and outsiders who should be favorable to ISKCON. So in this reference, is it okay if we, like people outside or following some other tradition, system, if they are doing some kind of get-together, our presence over there, simply going, we are following our system,
Yeah, but we
at
don't
the same time,
let them follow whatever they want to follow, but don't listen to them when they try to bring their ideas here.
yes.
You tell them that's just somebody else's idea. This is the actual standard we have. This is the actual truth. Prabhupada said, Bhagavad Gita as it is, not Bhagavad Gita the way I think it should be. Bhagavad Gita as it is, as Krishna wanted it. So Prabhupada, being a pure devotee, he understood what Krishna was saying when he said what he was saying. But only a pure devotee can understand that. So they're hearing from everybody, the media is full from all kinds of stuff, There's people who are leaders in spiritual circles who don't even believe in Krishna. They don't even think Krishna is a real person. They think he's just some fictitious character from somebody's idea that created some books. Yeah. These are some spiritual leaders are like that.
Yes, ma'am. So sometimes it happens like people from other tradition or not having proper understanding about spirituality, but still they invite us. So going there, giving
No,
time.
don't go to their programs, no. We should not go to their programs. We invite them to our programs.
Yes, ma'am. They invite us for, to speak or doing some Krishna conscious activity only, but they may not be there.
They invite us to go speak at their programs.
Yes.
And we speak, we tell them what our understanding of the knowledge, yeah.
Yes.
We can do that, we can preach, but we shouldn't kind of compromise in order to make people feel good.
Yes. Without compromising.
Compromise, Prabhupada was very kind in general, but one thing he couldn't tolerate was deviations in the philosophy. As soon as somebody would speak something deviant in the philosophy, he would become like Nrsingadev. Really heavy. Because he knew as soon as people start changing the philosophy, there's no end to it. Change leads to change, and then pretty soon you can't see the essence anymore. Like that. Prabhupada said 16 rounds, 4 regulative principles. Not 16 rounds and 3.5 regulative principles. the four regulative principles are no tea, no coffee, no fish, no, what else? No meat. That's the four regulative principles. That's what, people even say that. They create their own four regulative principles. No, if we hear from Prabhupada, we have all the knowledge we need. And the thing is, we're not trying to build our society with a bunch of people. We want people who are sincere and dedicated. Not just anybody can come in, and then because we think, oh, we should bring these people in. But if they have their own philosophy, either we teach them, or if they want to use their own philosophy, they can go somebody else. We're not interested in making numbers. We want quality. Devotees who are fixed in both the practice and the philosophy. Yeah. Yes, Nitai.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So Maharaj, as our movement is growing and we have a diverse set of leaders, so even amongst the leaders we see that some are, they tend to be a little conservative, some are more liberal, some are more balanced on the same issue. Like there could be a philosophical point, but they have different takes on the same issue. So how do we handle,
For the philosophy, you can have different takes. But for the application of the philosophy, in other words, in practice and how you do things, you might differ on how to do things. In other words, how the services should be rendered. And people put importance on certain service and not on other services. Or just like in Varnashram, Prabhupada gave the formula for establishing an ashram, but people have some other ideas on how Varnashram should be established. So you have to work it out. Therefore, Prabhupada used to say, wherever there's two people, there's two opinions. Not everybody agrees with each other wholeheartedly. We may agree in some things, but we may disagree on other things. But the philosophy cannot be changed just for the sake of individual ideas. The application of the philosophy also has to be understood in terms of the practice. If it's actually working, then you can say it's bona fide. But we deal with a lot of practical things in our Krishna consciousness too. Just like deity worship. You'll see, you go from temple to temple, you'll see, even though people have Radha Krishna deities, the deity worship is done differently. In some, not radically different, but in smaller details. How the arti is offered, how the mantras are chanted, even the order of the offering of the deities is done differently. They're trying to standardize that, but so far there hasn't been any what we say, congruency and establishing a foundation where everyone goes along with the same process. Deity worship, we find that there's some differences there. But as long as it's being done according to the principles of deity worship.
So Maharaj, so when it comes to the application, and you can have some diverse views on the application.
Right.
So for a devotee, it's a little bit of test and trial. Is that okay?
For a devotee, it's a little what?
Like test and trial. Like you may have two opinions on a certain application. So is it okay for the devotee to test and trial?
to try different applications, see which one's the best?
Yes.
Well, I think when it comes to application of activities, it should be done under the guidance of the leadership and not independently.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, sorry we went a little bit late. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Damodar ki jai. Sri Sri Gaurnitai ki jai.
So, on behalf of ISKCON Gurgaon, all congregation devotees and